G'day, I'm Neil and my handle is Wiley11. I'm just going to put my disclaimer here. Whatever I do and say on these videos is well-intentioned and well-meaning advice. I accept no liabilities whatsoever for any disclosures. If you take some advice or act on something that I'm saying on these videos, you do so entirely at your own risk. I'm doing it based on my experience. These videos are my attempt to give back to YouTube for the help and assistance that YouTube has given me. So once again, you follow along or follow advice from these videos entirely at your own risk. Okay, and if you're not happy to do that, click this off and off you go. Because this is purely my attempt to give back to YouTube, as I said, for the help and advice that I have received out of YouTube. So this is just my little attempt to give back. If you're all happy to follow along at your own risk, buckle up, sit in. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome. It occurs to me that I watch a lot of YouTube videos. They're doing repairs, doing stuff on cars or on electrical equipment or whatever. And they dive into a toolkit or a shed or whatever they dive into, and they pull out thousands of dollars worth of tools, and then they twiddle this, fiddle that. So see how easy it is. And and you're like, well, yeah, it's real easy if you've got like a bench saw or, a MIG welder hanging around or a TIG, thousands of dollars worth of gear like a lathe or whatever it is that they've got. And you're there like I am in a flat with the very basics of equipment. And, you're thinking, can I still do the repair if I don't have that kind of gear? And what do I actually need to get jobs done? And I was thinking about that. And so I thought I'd share this video. That's what this is all about. This is, I guess, what are the basics that you really need to get yourself up and running? To do, the minor repairs and whatever. Now, a lot of you might disagree with this, and a lot of you might think, yeah, okay, that's fine, but this is what I'm thinking, and again, these are my thoughts. I'm not saying that everyone can manage tools the way I manage tools. I tend to look after my tools. I tend to do a lot of maintenance on my tools because I haven't got a lot of money and I can't afford to replace them. If I break something, it might be broken for a long time before I can replace it. The sorts of things like torque wrenches. Now, my torque wrench, I bought a Kinchrome torque wrench, which is, the cheap knockoff version of the Sidchrome torque wrench, but it was made in Korea. It was still a very good quality. It was rated as a good quality wrench. And when I went in and spoke to the guy in the tool shop about it, I said to him, I can't afford the Sidchrome one. I don't have that kind of money. But about half the price, he pulled one off the shelf. It had dust all over it and whatever else because people weren't buying them. And he had me absolutely convinced that this Kinchrome wrench, would suffice, would do the job. And that if I bought it, he'd throw in the micro wrench as well, the micro tool. So I actually got the two wrenches. I got the long handle with the good size handle on it. Gave you a lot of torque for torquing bolts. Then he gave me the micro ratchet one, which was basically a ratchet job, that you could back it off and ratchet it. But it was only small. And he said, this is really handy for getting into small bits. Now, I bought those. I got the little one thrown in for free. He obviously had them on the shelf. He bought them and no one wanted them because they'd never heard of Kinchrome. But he said that they'd do the job for me. I am 37 years later and I'm still using those two wrenches. Okay? So I paid a fraction of what I would have paid for a Sidchrome one, but I took the word of somebody I trusted in terms, you know, he owned a tool shop. He wasn't a hardware guy. He wasn't some supermarket guy with 57 seconds of training, you know, telling me, oh, this will do the job. This was a guy that had been selling tools for 20 odd years, you know, and he knew what he was talking about. And he said that this was made in Korea, but quite frankly, there's nothing wrong with the tool. It'll work provided you oil it and look after it, and you know, you've got to look after your tools. He said that this will last. It came in its own case. I've still got the case. I've still got the tool. So I've got both of them. They're both called King Chrome, you know, and I've had them for 30 odd years. So this leads me to believe that, you know, like you can go buy the Snap-on and you can buy the SID Chrome, and when you've got money, that's fine. You can go do that. But when you don't have money, you've got to talk to somebody who actually sells tools. Go to like, and don't go to a supermarket tool place. You know what I'm saying? All they want to do is sell you the tool and get you out the door. You've got to go to someone who's passionate about tools. That you find that person wherever they are. They might be in a hardware shop, or they might be in a tool shop, but they know what they're talking about. They've been using wrenches and tools for some years, and they've got a good feel for what works and what doesn't. Now, I've been using my tools for you know, 40 odd years, and I know the limits of my tools. I know what I can do with them, and when I'm going to break something. And some of my tools are sacrificial. You know, I'm always looking in bargain bins to see what's in them. You know, you might find a chrome Vardium set of spanners in there, and I'll grab them if they're $5 for a chrome Vardium. I'll grab them, you know, because I know I can I can sacrifice them. If you've got to bash a bloody, you know, rusty nut out, you use the sacrificial spanner and you bash it on there, and away you go. And if you break it, you break it. And you knew you only paid, you know, a couple of bucks for it, and that goes into the scrappy, and you know, gets recycled. But even those tools, I'll still service them up. I'll still make sure that I rub them down with a bit of grease so there's no rust on them. You know, that they get rubbed down with a grease rag, so there's a very fine layer of film of grease on them. And when you put them back in the drawer, they're going to hold up. They're not going to be rusty like this. You pull them out and they're not covered in rust. And you know, they go on nuts properly. And you can fit the right size spanner on the right size nut, or you can bash a spanner on and know that it's going to go on and give you some purchase, you know, and there's no chipped teeth in it. If the teeth are all chipped, they're the ones I use first. There's a few in there that have got chipped teeth. They're the ones you use first. You bash them on, you know. Yeah, I've also got some just normal mild steel ones that are in there that were like $1, you know, but it was a full set, you know. And the particularly little micro spanners, they're the ones that you're always hunting up for some stupid little nut that someone's chucked into a, you know, there's no reason for it to be that small, but it is, and you've got to try to get in there, and you get it, and you know, and you just know that you've stripped something when you got it, but it's out, it's gone, you know. What I'm saying is that the basics are a set of spanners that you know are not going to fall apart on you. I didn't buy SID Chrome spanners. I bought them individually as I could afford them. So you work out what sizes you're always using, and those are the sizes that you buy in the really good quality first. And as you can afford it, you buy the wrench, you buy the, you know, you buy whatever it is you need, you buy it. If you don't want to do it that way, then you put your bickies in the cupboard for a few weeks until you've got the money put together for your good set. You know, the SID Chrome handyman set, and let me tell you, it's a tradesman quality set for handyman. Now, it has both SAE and metric in it. It goes from a 6mm wrench in metric right up to a 23mm wrench on the metric side. And then on the SAE side, it goes from, I think, an 1/8 of an inch right up to, I don't know, a 1-inch drive. And they're just open-ended spanners with ring spanner in the other end. So one end your open end, the other end your ring. and they're a good length that you can get purchase on them to turn things, you know. So you want to make sure that you know, well, the good quality ones are a good length, you know. You can get them cheaper, but they're shorter, and you can't get good purchase, and you end up putting a bar on them, and then they go ching, and that's the end of them, you know. That's what happens with cheaper quality. I guess what I'm saying is that in terms of wrenches, just open-ended spinners work great, and they'll do every job, okay? An open-ended ring spanner, you know, open-end one end, ring spanner the other end. Now the other kind of ring spanners you should have are the ones with that little, you know, they come down with a curve, a little S curve on the end of the thing, so they look like an S shape, they go like that. And I've got a few of those in here. I'll grab one, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Just give me a sec, I'll find it. Here's one. Alright, now this is a cheapie, got it in the bargain bin. That's what I'm talking about, right? And you can see that's two different sizes of metric. They step down a size, but you need a good set of those as well. Now that was a cheapie. I think I paid $5 for this set. That's 32 years old, that spanner. I think I paid about $5 for it 32 years ago. And the teeth aren't chipped on it. It was just specialed off, and I grabbed it for $5. And I've still got the little clip, the metal clip that clips them all together. You need a shifter spanner. You need a good shifter spanner. Let me show you what I'm talking about with that, if I can. No, I can't. I actually loaned it out to somebody. Can you believe that? I loaned my toolkit out to me mate. He had some minor repairs to do at a flat. That little toolkit's gone. So, but I paid. That was in a kit bag called Super Tools, and it had a 1-inch spanner shifter, which had a decent mechanism on it. And what I've done is I've serviced it. I've actually got in there with some grease and greased it all up and made sure that the mechanism, the winder mechanism, works. The point I make to you is that you don't need $60,000–$70,000 worth of tools, you know, lathes, drill presses, welders, and all this stuff when you're starting to do your little bits of maintenance. You can get away with a hand saw, you know, you can get away with a hand drill. I've actually still got my hand drill. That's sitting here. That I can show you. It's here. When I say I can show it to you, maybe I can't. Oh goodness, I can't. It's in that toolkit. I've loaned it out. But the sorts of things you do need, you need a really good hammer. This is mine. I didn't skip money on that. That's an Estwing. Now they're good quality. I paid about $90 for that, but that's 35 years old. Still going strong. Don't skip rivets. You got to get yourself a rivet gun that's, you know, those you can buy them for $10. Don't buy the $10 set, buy the $30 set. You'll have it forever. And I've greased this up, right? You can see there's grease on it. I grease that up and make sure that it works, right? So all the mechanism in there is full of grease, and it works beautiful. It's still got this little spanner. Actually, it hasn't got its little spanner though. I don't know where that's gone. Job, fine little spanner. You know, things like these torque spits, I bought those off eBay. I paid about $25, but they're not mild steel. They're hardened steel, and they'll do every little torque spit that's around. There's a piece in that kit that'll get onto it. They're the sorts of things you keep your eye open for, and when they come up for cheap, you get them, you grab them. The Dremel that's up here, I don't know if you can see up here, probably can't see it, but there's a box up there, it's got a Dremel in it. Now, I bought that for cheap, but I bought the Dremel. I didn't buy the knockoff. You know, what I'm saying is some things you don't cheap out on, and some things you do. Those little tools, those little hand tools like that, you don't go for cheap. You buy the good one. That Dremel up there is when Dremel was first made. That's when I bought it. but I got it for cheap. I didn't pay the full price. I bought it on the introductory special. It was about 40% off or something in the tool shop, because Dremel were trying to break in, and that's when I bought it. I could see it was a good quality tool. I could see how to service it. It gets greased up, it gets oiled, there's no rust, there's no dust, there's nothing in my Dremel, and it's been going for probably 30 years. I've had it a long time. I don't know what to tell you guys, but I would say, don't skimp out on a set. You got to have a good set of spanners. You got to have a good socket set, but don't pass over the cheap ones either, because sometimes you need to sacrifice a socket, and you can grab a cheap socket and chuck it in there and bash it on, and you don't care because you paid $10 for the set. I do that, and I've got cheap sockets in the drawer, and then I've got my good set. My good set, I always make sure that, if there's a quality job that needs doing, I use my good set. If it's some cheap ratty piece of rusted out crap, I use the cheap set. If it's going to get scratched to the shed house, if I've got to put it on the end of an extension and it's rubbing against some housing, I use a cheap socket. I don't destroy my good sockets because it's tied into the housing and I can see it's going to score the crap out of it. I just use a cheap socket, get it on the extension, and away I go. And I don't give a shit if I destroy it. It gets used as some kind of a press. You never throw them out unless they're cracked and split. If they're cracked and split, that's it. They're gone. If they're still intact and they're round, you can use them as presses to press bearings out and all sorts of things. They're very handy to have. So they go back in the drawer. And you know exactly the diameter of them because it says so right there on the socket. The inner diameter anyway. Vernier calipers. I didn't skimp on my vernier calipers. I've still got them. They're up here. You can just see them. I paid $35 for a digital set when it became available as a digital one, but I've also got one that's a manual one which needs calibrating every so often. Both those are high quality. I paid about $45. Whenever you've got a measuring instrument, you should spend a bit of money on it. They're the sorts of things you rely on a lot. But what can you do if you're working on electronics? Well, I've got this, and you're going to see this come up quite a lot in my videos. This is my tester, and I paid about $35 for this one. No, this isn't mine. This is the one I salvaged out of the garbage bin. This was smashed up. The screen was smashed, and there were things smashed up about it. And I think the dial here was broken off. It was hanging off at an odd angle, and it got chucked away. Someone up at the uni chucked it away. So I grabbed it out of the bin and I took it home, and then I found another couple of old ones that I had. I had a dial that fit, and I had a screen that fit. And I just swapped them out, and I've got myself a good quality multimeter, and for bugger all cost. And you can do that. You can find old tools and repair them. You can go to the flea markets. If you see something that's on a table somewhere, you pick it up, and you maybe give them $10 for it, and you'll get it home. You'll find it's worth a couple of $1,000, and you've repaired it and you got it for $10. I got a few of them for free. I know that one up there, that's worth $2,500. And I got that for free, except that I put about $100 odd into it to get it working. Now, I'm telling you, you can do that. My drill press that's downstairs, perfect example. It's a $2,500 floor standing, so it stands floor and it's taller than me. It's an industrial drill press, and it's on about a 3-inch bit of steel, solid steel. Stand goes straight up and down. It's calibrated. I've got a plumb. I put a string line on it to calibrate it. So I've got a plumb string, and I put it on the chuck, and away it goes, and I suspend it to make sure that it hits. When I wind it down, the string doesn't swing out. Right? It goes dead straight down. The plumb does not swing left or right. and it stays right on the mark, the centre mark that's on the base plate. It stays right on it. It's dead straight, and I keep it greased up when I'm not using it, so it's all greased up. And every so often I'll give it a run. So once every few months I'll go down and turn it on and make sure that the motor still runs and everything's good. But you've got to run them. You can't sit them away for 3 or 4 years and then pull them out and expect they're going to work correctly. You've got to use, you've got to cycle things over every couple of months. It's like your drills. If you pack them away in a cupboard for 12 months and then you get it out, you use it, there's a fair bit it's not going to work, because it'll have a dead flat battery and maybe the battery won't take a charge or whatever it is, or it'll have a wobble on it, or start making a noise because it's got a bit of crap in the winding somewhere. These things, they require use in order to, like once or twice, every couple of months, get them out and just use it. It's even my MIG welder is sitting in the bottom of the cupboard over there. It's not downstairs because I don't want moisture to get into it, so it's in the bottom of the actual hall cupboard up here. But that's a $400 bit of kit. I bought the Handyman MIG welder. I've got gasless flux in it, gasless wire, so I don't have to buy bottles of gas. It can take a gas bottle if I need one, but I don't bother with that. I use it, just with the flux core wire, and it works just fine for me, and I've been welding with that for a long time. So, look, I'm saying to you, I'm going to show you in a minute the tools that you do need when you're starting out. There's a few tools missing from it, like my handsaw's missing because, again, old mate's got it. There's a tile cutter that I bought for cutting tiles. I bought a good quality one. I didn't buy a cheap tile cutter. I bought a good quality one. And I can cut my tiles, using it. And I got it second hand off of a tiler. He was retired. He didn't want to have all his gear going to waste, so I bought his. And he probably would have paid $2,000-3,000 for it, and I paid $200-300. You know what I'm saying? And again, I had to do it up a bit, to get it back to pristine because it had seen a fair bit of use. But he said it cuts true, and it did. It was, the parts that matter worked well. The measuring bits, not so much, and I had to clean all that up so I could see measurements and things, But you understand what I'm saying. You develop a feel for tools, and you get to know, like your hammer, you don't just chuck that away. That's actually got a layer of grease on it. It doesn't rust, right? So when I put it away and I get it out the next time, you can see here it's got a dark spot on it, and that's the beginnings of a bit of rust. Except that it's actually not. It's actually a score mark where someone's missed and hit it. I don't often miss with my hammer, and I didn't buy the heaviest one either. If you buy the really heavy hammers, your arm's going to fall off after using them for a couple of hours. But you see guys, they get in there with a nail gun, they go pump, pump, pump with their nail gun, and you're there going, oh, okay, what's that worth? It's a $600 nail gun. I haven't got $600 for one of them. There's nothing wrong with putting a nail there going bang, tap, 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 and in it goes, tap, 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 and in it goes, and tap, and your nail's going in too. They're just going in with one of them. Right, hang on a second. Now, the disadvantage of a hammer is that you need space to swing one, and the advantage of a nail gun is that you don't. But you'll work out ways of, if you've got to get a nail in, I can use a clamp, and I can drive a nail in by using a clamp to just drive it. So if I can't swing the hammer in there, I can oftentimes get a clamp onto it and just, twist the clamp until the nail's driven home and just presses through the timber. I've done that. There's all sorts of ways around problems. What if you can't afford a multimeter? Well, you use a test light, right? That's an old one. I just use this as a probe now. But you have your little light and your little bit of wire on it, and you have a test light. And so you work out whether you've got a circuit or no circuit, Work out whether you've got ground or no ground. And it's just with a test light. and you get to use that until you can afford your multimeter, and then you use your multimeter. Multimeter is way better than this because it tells you the strength exactly, and the power and all the rest of it. But if you haven't got that, well, the test light works. You can work it out real quick with a test light. And normally, if you want to know if you've got continuity, a little bulb and a test light, and away you go. Yep, she's continuous. Right, I've said enough on this. It's 20 minutes of rabbiting on. We're going to shut this off, and we're going to go over to the next bit, which is the picture of all the tools. Right, just to finish off, what should you start out with? Well, this kit over here, as you can see, was a Super Tool kit, which I bought. I think that cost me $25 in the supermarket, and it basically came with a set of Allen keys, some things here. It came with this set of ratchet spanners, this set of precision screwdrivers. It came with a tape measure, but I very quickly replaced it with this one, which was a cheapie in the cheapie bin, and I bought it because it's both metric and imperial, and it's 8 meters long. You need something at least 8 meters long. If it's not 8 meters long, it's not good enough. You can see this tool bag here. This was a kit that was again in the supermarket. It was a cheap set, and it came with the drill and the 3-inch grinder. Now you must have a grinder, you must have a drill. I think I picked that up in a bargain bin. It's a leveler. You've got to have a leveler. This was in a bargain bin, and this was also in the bin. And what this is the impact wrench I was telling you about. Right, you must have your impact wrench. The toolkit had a hammer. This one here I think is 30 odd years old, and as you can see, the head on this hammer has been used and abused quite a lot. So when I've got a job requires hammering on, where I really don't give a shit about the hammer, that's what I use. It comes with screwdrivers. I think these red ones were in it, but I also went to the Charlie Cheaps and bought another set of these cheap screwdrivers. You can never have enough cheap screwdrivers around for prying on stuff. These stubby ones are a must, so they get you out of trouble a lot. Once again, cheap socket set. This is a set of easy outs, which I think were in a cheap bin. On eBay you can pick them up for $3 or $4. I'm about to run out of battery, so I'm going to keep this short. This was in a cheap bin. You must have an adjustable wrench. This is a micro wrench which actually came with this kit over here. I've got a big one somewhere, I don't know where it is. These ring spanners and open ends, they came with this kit. You'll normally get some kind, but there's not enough sizes in that, and they're not long enough handles. So I bought a Charlie Cheap set. I have a number of Charlie Cheap set. But I also bought this. Now I didn't skimp on these. These were about 60 bucks for the set. They're cheap, but they're not cheap, Cheap is like a $20 set. These were about 60 bucks, and they're Craftsman, and they're quite good. Multi-grips, must have them, must have side cutters. They're a good set. They're 40 odd years old. I paid about 80 bucks for them. They're tungsten. They'll cut through anything. Good set of pliers. These came with this set over here. They were part of that set. You'll get a lot of tools with it. You'll get Stanley knives with the set. That cheap one came with it. That's a better one. That's the better one. Again, this is a good quality one, which I bought at the hardware. The one thing you should do is these bloody things here, these will snap and tear and twist. So what you should do is go into the hardware and shout yourself a good set of Irwin ones, high quality ones. So I did that. They cost about 30 bucks, but they're well worth it. This is a high quality Stanley kit, as you can see. It's a micro ratchet set. I didn't skimp. When you start buying things outside of what you can get for Charlie Cheaps, don't skimp on the quality, save your bickies and buy a good one. So all up here on the table, this is my start kit. The only thing that's missing from here are the large open-ended wrench, adjustable wrench, which is the 1-inch drive wrench, and my handsaw. When you buy those sorts of things, and the chisels, this was a cheap set, and as you can see, the blade's all pitted and it's no good. My good chisel set, I think I paid about $100 for. So all up starting out for tools, you've got to have basically what you see in front of you. There's about $300 worth on the table there, give or take $20. Alright, that's about what's there. Away where you can't see it in your toolbox, you normally have a good toolbox. You'll collect tools over time. When you buy your good hammer, buy the best one you can find. My recommendation is Estwing. They've got a lifetime guarantee on them. And I've had that one 20 odd years, and that's a 20-pound hammer. Right, don't buy the heaviest hammer, because if you're swinging it all day, you're going to get a sore arm. You need a square. I use this adjustable one. I've had that for a lot of years. These are circlip pliers. This was a cheap set on eBay. I think that cost me about $6 on eBay. Must have get around the corner. These are just knuckles for your wrench, so you can get on the difficult nuts. When you start buying these sockets yourself, you get odd sizes that you're using all the time. Work out that you've got the 10mm, you're going to be using it a lot. The 7mm, I was using that a lot. So I went out and bought good quality ones. So these are good quality. These are all Irwin, high quality Irwin ones, which I bought at the hardware. And again, I paid, I don't know, $10 for each of them, and probably $3 for that. That's a tungsten one. It's never going to break. It's high quality. I don't mind paying a bit more if I know I'm going to have it for 30 or 40 years. That's fine. So what I'm saying is, start out with the cheap stuff. Buy them at the supermarket. Buy the biggest kit you can get. There were 300 odd tools in this Super Tool one. And it came with the tool bag and had everything I wanted in it as a starting point. But I bought the drills at the supermarket too. These were cheap ones, but they're going good. I'd rate these as a pretty good deal. I think I paid $90 for this kit, and it came with one battery. And I went out and I bought this little kit here, which is an addendum kit. I think this cost me about $60. And I bought a spare battery and a spare charger, so that I had 2 chargers and 3 batteries. So, I can swap and change things around. And that's a ratchet, a rattle gun. This is an impact rattle gun, this one. Right. Pretty bloody good. They hold their charge. I'd rate those as pretty good as when you're starting out. If you add that kit, there's $400 worth on the table. And what's here? This toolbox cost me about $300 just for the toolbox, and a lot of my gear goes in it. You need a good quality scraper, must have, right? That one cost me $10, but it's stainless steel, it's razor sharp, and I keep it pristine. I look after it. You must do a bit of tool maintenance in order to keep your gear going. That scraper's 35 years old. I use that for a lot. What you don't get with that, what you can't get with that one, you got to get with your chisels. I've got chisels, high quality chisel, should be there. There it is. Don't know what it is, but I know I paid about $60 for that chisel. It's hardened steel, it's not mild steel, and I keep that razor sharp. That's a good chisel. You need clamps. So these you pick up at Charlie Cheaps, you pick them up at Don, all these sorts of things. You pick them up in bargain basement bins and you collect them over time. In here, when you start buying your good spanners, don't skimp on the price. Each one of those would have cost me $50, right? And they're the bigger sizes. So these are King Chromes. They're not Sid Chromes, they're King Chromes, but that was what I could afford at the time. And now that I've got a bit more put away, I'm going after Sid Chromes. It's going to cost me about $600 just for my spanners. Socket sets. As you can see, these are torque bits for that punch you saw before. It's a whole set of torque bits. You need a good extension bar, you need a good breaker bar. My good breaker bar's downstairs. If you're working on, drill bits, don't forget drill bits. That kit there, that you can just see in there, that's about a $30 drill bit set. It's got every drill bit known to man in it. And you'll snap them and whatever, but over time you'll start buying higher quality. And you keep your higher quality ones set. But if you just want a quick job and you don't give a shit, you use your cheap drill bits. In there I've got a drill, that's a Tradesman Ryobi one. I've got the Dremel. The Dremel is the handiest thing I ever bought. Very, very handy. If you can afford one, buy it. And buy good quality. Don't buy the cheap ones. Buy the Dremel. The Renovator, very useful tool. It does so much stuff. 6-inch grinder. I bought that at the pawn shop. I actually got that from a second-hand pawn shop, and I paid about a third the price. It's a good quality one. It's a Tradesman one. And you can see up there I've got all sorts of instruments and measuring stuff and guillotines. And don't skimp on safety equipment. If you're buying safety equipment, make sure it's serviceable and it's not going to let you down when you need it. So this is I don't know, but it's not the cheap one. It was the next stage up from being cheap. If you need metering equipment, buy good stuff, you know, like the multimeter. That's another thing you should buy. That one cost me 80 bucks. When you start buying these things for yourself, you know, I spent about 60 bucks on this TorqueSpeed thing. When you're buying them, for, you know, once you've got the basics and you're working it, you're breaking shit, which you will, spend a bit more money and buy better quality, right? And if you buy better quality, I mean, this hammer looks like nothing on earth. I think I paid about 6 bucks for that 35 years ago. It still goes, right? Still works. Nothing wrong with it for banging a nail in. The head on it's all flattened out because my mate was pounding on some steel with it. God, I don't give a shit, you know. This is the sort of stuff where you don't give a shit, you give it to your mate. If you do give a shit, you don't lend it to your mate, you know. You don't give him your good shit, you can give him the cheat shit. And you'll see over here, you know, I've got an Allen key set there that I bought on eBay, which I paid about 20 bucks for, you know. I bought a whole string of them. They're hardened steel. They're not going to break off. So, again, just be mindful of getting the best you can for the money you have in your wallet. Don't go put it on credit. That's not anything. Oh, ratchet screwdriver. That's a good thing to have. You know, you can ratchet forwards, lock it, or backwards. And again, these bits that you got here, you go to Irwin's and you get a whole set of these things, and you get the whole lot of these bits. So that's an Irwin bit in there. You see, that's a hardened steel bit. It's never going to break. Drill bits are a big thing. When you get your screwdrivers going, you know, you'll get a collection of them over time. Phillips head, flat blade, you know, whatever they are. Drill bits, I've got all sorts in here. Gee, I've got all sorts of stuff in here I didn't even know I had. But you'll end up with masonry bits, and the masonry bit goes in this drill up here, this big one. This is a big electric drill. Now, those big electric drills, that cost me about 200 bucks. So when you get serious about it, like wire strippers, even these I spent about 15 bucks on. It's a good set of wire strippers. None of this stuff's good for working on electrical equipment, right? It's not insulated, so I'm starting to put together like these. These are pretty good because they'll cut through anything, and they're about the only thing I use for the electrical work. But these pliers are no good. They're useless for electrical work. They wouldn't do. So that's the next lot of stuff, is I'm buying the SIG Chrome spanners, the insulated tools, the insulated screwdrivers, and of course the really good pliers and the gear for doing the electrical work. So that's the next sort of things on the shopping list. I'll end up spending about 900 bucks, but I won't go spend it all at once, and I'll save my money, and as I get the money, I'll buy it. So that's it. When you're starting out, there's about 500 bucks worth there on the table. you could probably start out with 200 bucks and just buy your drills, this kit here, your tape measure, make sure it's a good one, and one good set of spanners, and then just make do with what you got in your kits. You don't need, see this one here, you don't need that, you've already got it over here, right? You don't need to put a good Stanley in, you've got a Stanley knife there, but you can pick up one of those for, I don't know, 10 bucks. I think I picked that up for 25 bucks somewhere. It's broken. I managed to break it, I'm going to get it replaced. Your drill, make sure it's cordless and that you've got plenty of power in it. It's an 18 volt. And I think that'll go for about a week before I even need to think about recharging it. It's pretty good. But these were bought from Aldi, of all places. That's where I bought them. Well, I didn't buy them, I got given them as a present for my son. So now I'm stuck with it. Because once you buy something, you don't want to chop and change, because you can't interchange your batteries or your chargers or any of that stuff. So once you make a decision to go cordless, go all the same and just keep buying it. One day, if you can afford it, buy the Makita. That's what I would buy, because it's guaranteed. Anything guaranteed is always good. Rightio, I'm going to sign this off. But if you just wanted to know, as I said, there's about 300 bucks worth there on the table. And the only things that aren't there are the saw, the hand saw. Buy a good quality one, don't buy a cheapie. They're the things that will last you for years and years and years if you keep oiling it down when you use it, and make sure it's still sharp. And you must have things to sharpen, so you've got to have a file. You can see in here I've got files. And the other thing I've got in here, which you can't see because it's in the plastic, is my whetstone. That's my oil stone. You must be able to sharpen up your gear. There's a metal angle thing in here. That costs a couple of dollars in a Charlie cheap bin. I didn't pay a lot of money, but I've had that nearly 20 years, that little angle finder. You know, it's all about looking after your gear. There's a lot of stuff missing out of here, but you know, this square is no good anymore. It's going to get chucked because my mate bent the shit out of it when he used it. But you can see the spanners over time, they come out of sets, and the leftovers go in here. Ring spanners are very, very useful. So if you've got a good set of ring spanners, these ones, you can pick them up for, you know, 20 bucks at the Charlie Chips as well, or in the bargain bins. Just keep your eye open for them. You get them as a set and you chuck them in the drawer. And when you want a ring spanner, you got one. Okay, enough's enough. I'm signing off. But that's it. You can see what's on the table. That's what I'd start with, all that. Okay, thanks for watching. Right, just a quick addendum. I found the adjustable wrench. Now, this is a good example of why you only lend cheap tools to your mates, right? I was out on working in a factory, right, and I had this in amongst the tools, and one of the blokes shouted out, have you got an adjustable wrench? And I went, yeah, I got one. Here it is. You know, you can see it's a pretty good one. And he says, oh, I just need to take this thing off the top of my ute, and I'll bring it back. Yeah, right, okay, here you go. And I gave him the wrench. And so he went out to his ute, he opened it up about, I don't know, this wide, and he went, and then he went, whack. What he wanted was a hammer. And you can see what he's done, right? He's bashed the crap out. He didn't even bash it that way. He bashed it with the piece that always breaks. And he's given it a couple of, and he's got his piece off, and all, here's your thing back. And he gave it back to me. And I was like, so what you actually wanted was a hammer. Which is, I wouldn't give him that yellow handled one. This is why you give cheap tools to people. But just an addendum, yeah, I found this, and that was good. Righto, so that's the adjustable wrench I've been talking about. And again, I paid, I think, about $8 for that at a hardware shop, but I needed it in a hurry. I normally pay about $5 for these. They're 12-inch long. They say they're drop forged, but you know what always happens with these is they break this piece here off. This is a cheapie, and the reason it's cheap, you see there's a lot of play in that, right? You can move it quite, and that that's why they break, is because they either break there or they snap the pin that goes in there. So either that snaps or this snaps off here, one or the other. That's where they break. But they're cheap because they're cheap. You know, they're not. They've got a lot of play in them. A good quality one has no play. When you do that, you can't. You know, you can't do that on a good quality one. Yeah, they're solidly put together, and they've got a tungsten pin in there that does. It's just not going to break. And you don't go banging with your good quality wrenches. You never do. But this is just drop forged. It's galvanised. It's a cheap wrench, you know. But for the amount of times I use one of these, I've normally got an actual fit for the spanner. So just a quick addendum, I found the wrench, and there's a good example of why you only ever, have a look at this, you know, he's gone out to his ute, he's opened it, you know, as I said, he's taken a look at the nut, yeah, she's about that wide, oh, you know what, and he's just bashed the shit out of his roof rack bracket, you know, that's over the back of his ute. He's just bashed the crap out of it with it, and it's come off. He didn't. So I said, oh, he'd give it back. There you go. I said, well, so what you wanted was a hammer, right? Pretty funny. All right.